Today is Monday, July the 11th, and the McDowell County Board of Commissioners are now in session. Meeting is called to order. If everyone would stand, we'll have our prayer and pledge. We do this at the start of every meeting. Mr. Hoffield, if you would do the pledge, and Commissioner Brown, if you would do the prayer.
Bow our heads. We thank you, Lord, for this day. We thank you, Father, for all your many blessings. We thank you for allowing us to serve the community, Father, and we pray that everything that we do here today will be thy will, Father, and to uplift the community and make it a better place. These things we ask in thy precious name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, let's all place the flag, please, and come to attention. Hand on the heart. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we have the minutes that we need to approve from our June meeting. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve minutes is presented.
Okay, discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Next item, gentlemen, is the approval of our agenda for tonight. Are there any additions or deletions by board members or staff? Okay, there being none, what's the pleasure of the board concerning tonight's agenda?
Motion to approve.
Okay, discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Let's go right into the appointment schedule. We have a 5:05 appointment with our administrative staff. So, Mr. Wooten, if you don't mind, sir, go right ahead and lead us out on the three items you have here.
Yes, sir. First, I'd like to say Happy New Year for local government. This is the new fiscal year, and so we're glad to be in the new year, and we can get to do some projects and other things that we maybe have put off the last few months of the preceding year. And so as we go in the new year, you'll maybe see new faces and new projects going on, painting buildings and those types of things. So just want to recognize that. And again, thank the board for all the hard work in putting together this year's budget and the staff. But I want to get that mentioned. Also, as we move in, life goes on and that sort of thing. We have routine items here to start the meeting. The first one is a leak adjustment from our Nebo water system. And staff will recommend that you approve the adjustment. It was a leak that occurred out on the old Wildlife Club development a few weeks ago.
Okay, comments or questions for staff? There being none, what's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve the leak adjustment.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, Mr. Wooten, continue on, sir.
Sure. The next item for, I'd say, many years, we have enjoyed the services of Johnson, Price, and Sprinkle auditing team who will be here soon, assuming you approve the next item. But it is time for their contract renewal, and you have that in your packet before you. Very standard agreement. Fees stay essentially the same. And maybe some, annual adjustment type area, but otherwise staying the same. They do a great job. They know our staff. They know our operations. And it's not bringing in someone that's never worked with us before. So we would recommend and request that you renew their contract.
Okay, comments or questions by board members? There being none, do we have a motion?
I move we renew their contract.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, Mr. Wooten, let's go to the third item under administrative.
Okay, the last item I have under this heading, you heard from Mike Gladden, the now retired Public Works Director, last month. One of his last communications to me was that what's called the roll-off truck, garbage truck, was close to death. It's a 1988 model. It was at one time a garbage truck with a container, a box on the back. We had retrofitted it at one time, and it's just at the end of its life. It's that age isn't that old when it's a human being, but when it's a truck, it's time to move on. So what you have in front of you is you have the specs provided by Mike and confirmed by Randall Thomas, the new director. And so that is on page 37. It's a Mack roll-off truck. The quote just for the truck was $153,725. Staff is recommending the optional warranties for the engine, the transmission, harness, etc. So the financing package would be with Carolina Alliance Bank. The amount financed would be $160,065. It would be a term of 4 years, an interest rate of 1.45%. And staff is recommending we go with that bank at those terms and ask that you approve, that you enter the bids from the other banks and approve the resolution as presented. So it's a mouthful, but
Okay.
make sure we get it all out.
Theirs was 1.45% interest,
Yes.
and
That's right.
BB&T was 183.
183 and actual savings 2.43, and no responses from the other banks.
Move we go with Carolina.
Okay. Have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Well, one of the good things on this that we notice is that, the fellows down there at the transfer station pretty creative and ingenious, and they're going to pay for this out of funds coming from recycling such as white goods and other recyclable items.
Good point, Commissioner Hallfield. That would about be probably press-worthy, I would say.
Yeah, I believe it would be. I mean,
Okay, still in discussion. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Now, we have a 5:15 appointment. We are slightly ahead of schedule. Not too bad. We have our esteemed Register of Deeds with us tonight, Ms. Tonia Hampton, and supporting staff. So, Tonia, if you'll come up and talk to us about the preservation project you have to introduce to the board. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you for allowing me a few minutes of your time. As many years has passed, I've spoke to you individually many times about our documents and the condition of wear, of how they appear in our office. And, we're the keeper of the records. We're the county's history, and they're not just my documents. They're the county's documents, and their history we can't ever retrieve. So to me, it's vitally important that we continue to preserve what we have and just to improve what we have. And that's one of my goals. And since being Register of Deeds, I've been very conservative, and I've saved a lot of money knowing this project was coming about. And I think, Ashley, you may have a copy of...
They do. It's in the
Okay. It's the Automation Reserve Fund that is allocated strictly for the Register of Deeds office, and this money actually comes from the recording of our documents. The state allocates funds for us to have so much, 10% of collected fees of documents. And our deeds of trust especially currently are $56. We receive $6.20 per document to keep in our office for storing public records, for any computer services we may need, anything that enhance our office. Well, for 4 years, like I said, I've been a little tight with the money, and proudly I'm saying I have saved $94,853.83 to allocate. That's in this fund that we are able to use.
Great job.
Thank you. I have a company, or I have two quotes actually. The first quote, and I apologize that I didn't make you copies, I should have been a little more prepared with that, is named CoFile. CoFile is based out of Greensboro, but CoFile is a company that actually takes your records off-site, and once these are prepared or they're preserved, they mail them back to you by UPS and the off-site for 4 to 6 months. I prefer not to send our history off because who knows what could happen in transit, and I don't want to risk that. That's one reason I've been dragging my feet on getting these done or holding off. I found a company out of Texas. Their name is Peeler. They've been in business since 1953. I've checked several references on this company, and what they're wanting to do is they are a mobile company. They actually come here to the county. They have asked the county to use a space in their parking lot, which would consist of like 2 16-foot trailers, and they would be on site, never to take our documents away from the county. If we needed those, we step outside and retrieve those copies for the county or whoever needs them. They actually would like to do a deacidification of the documents, take all the tape, take everything off of the documents that is eroding these pages. I brought you an example of the condition that our oldest death records in the county are. Sorry. But I do ask everybody wear gloves when they touch them, and they think I'm a little weird. But like I said, that the acid and the oil off of your hands is just, these are death records from 1910 and 1909. And as you see, these edges are fraying, and they're becoming brittle. And these are just in large books. And when people flip through the books, this is what's happening to the documents. They're just shredding and becoming brittle and chipped away. And as time goes on, if these aren't encapsulated and deacidified and all this taken off of them, these records will disappear. I have them scanned, and of course they're at Vital Records. But this is, like I said, this is our history. There's nothing like holding this. This could be your great-grandparents' death certificate in your hand. I have early marriage records as well. I have some from 1852. So, I'm sure you know the importance of these documents, but they're beautiful pieces of art, and like I said, they're things that you can never get back. Excuse me. These are marriage bonds. And so these are some of the examples. Peeler has offered to come and to do these deacidifications and to use this, I'll use this allocated money, for literally half price of what co-files is. Let me tell you what the numbers are. When adding up the death books, we have 9,044 pages that I want to do this way, which will consist of 24 individual books that will be both sides. These will be encased in an acrylic sleeve, which after it's deacidified, the actual document will be preserved in that sleeve, placed in the sleeve, and put in a binder that becomes part of that binder. They are willing to do each and every page of that 9,044 documents, which makes 24 books for $20,930. That's the death books. And I have a total of 32 marriage books that will become of this, new books and new binders. They're called industrial binders. The binders have a lifetime warranty. This will keep and preserve the documents for over 200 years is what they're assuming. Of course, you and I won't be here, but that's a long time. And the marriage books are going to be $54,240. So that makes a total of $76,000. Still have almost $20,000 in reserve. The other company that wanted to do these wanted $4 a page. And that, just for the death books, was $36,000. So that's almost double for the books that would be done off-site. So I'm just asking for the reserve money that we've saved to be allocated for this project. It's very important. And another thing with this company that I'm so proud of, they're a family company. They actually will live here. They'll live on site. They bring their children. They homeschool their children. They're phenomenal. They know how important our records are, and just speaking with these brothers is just wonderful. I'd hope that each of you get a chance to meet them. But they actually tell us that we can help with the process if we want to, which I think is awesome. I'd love for people to come by and look at it and see exactly what it is that we're doing. I get excited about the projects because I know that maybe we're going to make a difference. So that's basically what I'm here for, is to ask that you guys understand the importance of this project and that we get this money allocated for that. and they're going to give us a $5,000 free shelf because I'm the first one in North Carolina to do a project this large. It's going to hold every record that they do. It's going to be a large shelf, and it's going to be horizontal. The books will slide in horizontal underneath the table that the actual people can use to look up the documents on the top. They'll be housed underneath. So they have that on their website. It's $5,000. So it's a win-win situation.
So doing this, it still keeps the records available to the public. You know, if we don't do something, then they're going to either be gone.
On site, yeah.
Absolutely. And I heard a horror story. The other day. It was a county out on the coast. I hate to quote this company, but a company sent off these documents, and they prepared them and packaged them up and returned them back to the Registry of Deeds office, and a book was lost, and they were not scanned. So they've lost, probably 300 somebody's marriage license. To me, it's like I said, a no-win situation. They're going to be here, their hours, they don't go outside of our hands, and it's a reputable company. I've actually done many research. They've done a lot of work in Arkansas. I've called many of the counties in Arkansas, and I haven't had one bad report on them. So I've checked them out pretty good.
They've been in business doing this for 64 years, so I think they've got it down
They do.
to a science.
How long is it going to take us to get the records you indicated complete?
2 weeks.
How long?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
They'll be here 2 weeks with their trailer. They said they would stay on site until it was finished, but the anticipation was 2 weeks. And this money pays for their hotel expenses, pays for everything from start to finish with the documents. There's no overhead other than this. This is the money. This is the quote.
And this is marriage and death and things. Do you see us in the future maybe doing some of the older deeds and things like that in the county?
I would love to do that eventually. It's just the preserving that fund, just saving up that money and doing it. A lot of the older deeds, books 1 through 10, I believe, have been on de-acidified paper and are preserved that way. And each and every document is scanned as well on those. And because they're scanned, they're easier to retrieve. But some of these old ones, because the image is so poor, it's hard to scan a good image of it unless you have the original. But this will do from 1912 till 1961 on marriages. So there will be a project later on, hopefully within the next 4 or 5 years, to finish out from 61 to present.
Great.
That's what I'm hoping for. But, like I said, this is our job. This is important that we maintain what we have and just continue to preserve it, because it's not going to be here forever if we don't take care of them.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Staff, any comments you need to add?
No, it's, Ms. Hampton talked to me about it a couple of weeks ago, and I know I've been up there, I'm like a kid in the candy store sometimes looking at these documents up there.
Yeah.
Just personally with the interest, but it is important that we as staff and board recognize these are the public documents. Same for her with our minutes and everything else. We have to maintain them for future generations, so it's a great thing that they're doing, and we're proud of the work they do up there.
Thank you.
Okay. Board members, any final comments, questions?
I
I
believe
think it's a great thing.
I think it's a great thing. It's something that needs to be done years ago, and I'm proud to see that you're stepping up the plate and getting the process started.
Thank you so much.
And you've identified funds, too, that.
That's the more important thing.
That's a great
Yeah.
thing.
She has saved up the funds to get it done.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
I've really been wanting to.
That shows shrewd, you're running the office wisely. Any other comments, questions?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we let her move along to proceed in this process.
Okay, we have a motion, to have a second.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Okay, all right.
Thank you
Y'all have a
so
great
much.
evening, Tonia. Thanks for being here.
You
Thanks
as
for being here
well.
tonight.
Glad to be here.
You can go home and get some supper now.
I've got another meeting.
All right, well, y'all have fun.
But I do invite you each to participate when this project starts to happen. I'd love to have each of you come and actually see
I'd
it.
like to see it.
That'd be a great news story, too.
Can you share the dates again?
what are
Well,
those
I'm not
dates?
sure. I was waiting on tonight to come.
Okay.
And then I'm going to contact them. They did tell me that hopefully it'd be by the end of September. So we need to probably work together too on where we can put these
Sure.
trailers for 2 weeks that won't be anybody's way. So, thanks
Certainly will.
again.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, let's go to item A, under new business. This is board appointments in our association voting delegate. The reason why I went to the new business, Commissioner Peters called, said he would be here. So he said, actually, I think he sent me a text just now. Okay? But anyway, so we have in front of us the planning board, and we have 3 applicants. One seat is available. That will be Tommy Stamey's seat. He has reapplied, as you can see, to be reappointed. So if you can mark your ballot, then the Nursing Home Adult Care Advisory Committee, this is a first reading on that board. So we'll be voting on the planning board tonight.
Just the planning board.
Yeah. And our clerk will tally up the vote totals. Our clerk does the,
Unanimous for Tommy Stamey.
okay, we have a unanimous vote for Mr. Tommy Stamey to be reappointed. Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, let's move to item B under new business. This will be our tax matters. Mr. Wood, go ahead, sir.
Did you, Mr. Chairman, did you want to do the voting delegate for the?
Oh, I'm sorry. I even mentioned that. Okay. Randy's normally our voting delegate. Does any commissioner, well, first of all, Randy, would you wish to do that again?
I believe, yes, I believe
Okay.
this is going to be in,
All right.
I believe it's going to be in Greensboro this year.
Okay. All right.
Winston, yeah. let him-
Winston say.
Randy wants it. I think he's done an outstanding job representing us. So do I hear a motion? We just reappoint or vote Randy to be our voting delegate.
I make a motion.
Second.
Okay, discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Now let's move to item B. This will be tax matters. Mr. Wood, go ahead, sir.
Sure. Before we get into releases, refunds, et cetera, the tax assessor has given a memo to us. You'll see in your packet, there's a few, I guess, late waivers that he would ask for. The first is for a church, Redeemed Free Will Baptist, asking that they have an exemption granted. Apparently, a parking lot was mapped separately, so staff would recommend that. There's one about a PUV, present use value program deferral that we would recommend. And the third is Creston Property Owners Association. We're asking that you allow that as well. In addition to those 3, we have, don't know that they're actually copied, but we have requests from the individuals listed, Garden, Matthews, Williams, Lindsay, and Proctor, that are asking to be granted the elderly exemption. The deadline, I believe, was June 1st, and they came in since then. We would ask that those be granted as well.
Okay.
Then we have the typical releases, refunds.
Okay, gentlemen, you've seen all the information in the packet. Are there any comments or questions at this time? What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve all tax releases.
Okay. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Now let's go to item C under new business. This will be the Duke Energy relicensing agreement amendment. And Mr. Wooten, go right ahead, sir.
Briefly on this one, won't get into the 20-year history of it, but the county was a party to an agreement with Duke Energy about 10 or 11 years ago. There was a big negotiation over relicensing Lake James and the other lakes in the chain. Again, we signed that agreement, and the FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, has issued a license to Duke. Duke has been requested from some of the parties to make amendments to the agreement, and staff would recommend that we go along with the amendment. A lot of it has to do with South Carolina and Lake Norman, that sort of thing, but there is a very, very small impact to McDowell County in that one of the agreements, it would increase the level of Lake James during certain conditions by ½ an inch. So that's not a very big impact, but it is a positive impact. But I don't think anybody would really ever notice it. But that was the only local impact I could find at all. But we are a party to the entire agreement, so they did ask that everyone approve it. So staff would recommend approval.
Okay, comments or questions by board members? There being none, what's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve Duke Energy request.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, now let's go ahead and move to, Commissioner Peter said he'd be here at 5:30, but we're going to go ahead and move on. We just can't wait. Let's move to item A under old business. This is the foster parent licensing policy. Mr. Wood, go ahead, sir.
Sure. I believe it was last month that the board first discussed the issue of foster home licensing, and the discussion centered around having a residency requirement for foster parents that are licensed by our agency, by DSS. Some counties have a residency requirement, some don't. It just depends on the local preference. It is something that the state allows without any objection. And to summarize the discussion last month, there was a discussion about having it limited just to McDowell County families, or going to like we have now, or maybe a 50-mile radius or something. So what we'd come up with is a staff recommendation, and this has been looked at by DSS staff. It's a very short policy, probably the shortest we could write, but what we would recommend is that primarily the focus be for McDowell County families, that there are exemptions to that would be allowed for a kinship placement. So if there's somebody that lives in Caldwell County as a grandparent and a child is taken from the birth parents, and we wanted to make sure that child ends up with family in Caldwell, we could license that family without any board interaction. The next exemption, a lot of times there is a conflict of interest. Myself, I'm a licensed foster parent through another county because I'm not allowed to be licensed through McDowell County because I have administrative control over that department. It would be a conflict of interest. So we would recommend, just to be reflexive with the counties around us, if there's a situation in Rutherford County or Burke or whatever where they have that kind of conflict, that we'd be allowed to help them like they help us. And then we always put the standard agreement or language if there's some other state or federal requirement we're not aware of, that we're allowed to just comply with that state or federal law. And we also put in there that the board can grant approval to other situations. And what we would do is probably have a document similar to the tax matters, maybe not as much detail, probably just a last name, an explanation why an out-of-county family would want to be licensed, and then a staff recommendation from the director and the county manager that would be approved. And that way, we can have more input. You can have more input on the process, but it still allows for that flexibility if we have the need like we do for additional homes. But it puts a little more justification on folks from out of county.
In other words, we would say yes or no.
Right.
Right, gotcha.
We did grandfather the ones that are currently licensed from out of county. That's a recommendation since they have gone through the process. So this tries to strike a compromise and have board input in the decision, but still meet the need that we have.
Okay, comments, questions?
This, there's 3 items on this. The kinship placement is one of them,
Right.
and I understand that. The licensing a home from an adjacent county due to the state recognized conflict of interest. Explain that to me again.
Right, that would be, the situation I mentioned was like myself,
And you can throw me in there too.
or Chairman Walker, or someone that is employed at DSS. They're not allowed to be licensed by the county where they work. Someone that works at a convenience center, they can probably be licensed by McDowell County, but someone like myself or Chairman Walker or a supervisor at DSS that have influence on the staff that work over there. If I was licensed by
But it's
McDowell.
limited to that situation.
Right. It's where we would say for somebody out of Rutherford County, let's say the Rutherford County manager, if he wanted to be a foster parent,
Okay.
we could license
And the
them
key word in that little second one to me would be due to a state recognized conflict, not just a perceived
Right. It would have to be somewhere
supervisor
where
at DSS says, well, I just think this. We're
Right.
talking specific state.
this is where we would have feedback from the state licensing folks in Black Mountain. They would say, we're not going to allow you to be licensed here because of X. And that happens, and typically they know when someone's not going to be approved, but
Now, the third one that's on here, I really don't see the point in it being on there, because basically the second one,
Second and third is sort of running together.
the second one.
the third one was sort of a catch-all, and that's,
But it opens the door too much to suit myself.
Yeah.
I don't like.
I mean, we
the third.
we could strike that and have it with the board approval side if there was one that, we would say this one doesn't fall in the first 2 categories, but it seems like by law, by some whatever. I mean, there's always going to be some weird situation out there.
I would like that third one to
Okay.
to state that personally that any other would be approved by the board.
Okay, and
I've got, it's good. You guys have done a great job, and you sit down and talk and work things out. The only, I would concur with what Commissioner Brown stated. It seems like the number 2 and 3 were just sort of running together. So, I mean, you can clean that up, I think. But the one, grandfathered homes, it says the homes outside the territorial limits of McDowell County that have completed the licensing process do not require board's approval. I understand I just need clarification on the list, because we received a list that had 5, and 4 of those were in Burke, and 1 was in Yancey, and the other was 2 counties away. Now, are you throwing that 2 counties away in that group right there per recommendation?
they could be excluded from this process if you wanted to, because I think they've been approved. They've completed the training, but I think the thought from staff at DSS was to get them through the licensing process and then transition them somewhere else, I think was the idea, but we can clarify that.
Yeah, because we need to be very clear about it, because that is staff time, money, 2 counties away. It's not a state, it wouldn't fall under the state recognized conflict of interest or this other state or federal law situation. That's one where we just tried to help that couple out. They weren't offering the MAP training till like this November or something. So our people said, yeah, you can come on in and sit in our class and we'll do you. And we should have, my opinion is that was fine to do that, but the process would have been when they completed the MAP training, then refer them to their home county, 2 counties away, to get the process going to be licensed.
I agree with Chairman Walker on that one. I don't think we should pick them up, or they should be licensed by McDowell County. The educational part of it is okay, but it should stop there, in my opinion.
Okay. We will have an issue possibly if Haywood does not take them as a family,
Why would Haywood not take them?
just as a possibility.
Okay.
But we can have that conversation
Okay.
with Haywood
All right.
DSS. There is staff time involved and a lot of work,
Yeah.
but that would seem to be the logical thing
Yeah.
that they take them. But we can have that communication at a manager or DSS director level.
Other comments,
We will do
questions?
that.
All right. Let's make sure we're right, because we're going to vote. We need to make sure, for the record, Mr. Wooten, to help me, because we talked a little bit. Now, you know how it is when you talk a little bit, you might forget a
So
little
we're
bit.
we're gonna strike the third exemption. And
Okay.
if there's any other oddball situation, we'll just ask for board approval.
Okay.
It doesn't fall in the first two. And we will talk to Haywood DSS and strongly request that they take that family.
Yeah. Because due to the time, money, staff shorthanded over there anyway, CPS unit has constant turnover. Everybody knows that. They need to be licensed in their county.
It makes no sense to me for McDowell County to spend taxpayers' money to service people 2 counties away. It makes no sense to me. And so,
And understand it was a state deal. It was one of the things where it was a kinship deal. You know, you got to do it. That's state law. You got to try to place them with kinfolk. So, I mean, that's beyond our control right there. But let's make sure on that last one that you'll handle that, and they're not going to be licensed through McDowell County. Okay? Is everybody clear about that? I mean, just make sure everybody's on the same page. Man, anything you want to add, comments, questions? Randy? Tony?
It's real clear with me on all this.
Okay, all right. Okay, gentlemen, what's the time to vote? So what's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve
Okay.
the foster home licensing policy along with the changes and amendments as has been stated by this board.
Okay. Do I have a second?
second.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Okay, let's move to the next item.
Can I just chime in?
Sure.
A public service announcement. Hopefully it'll be on the air before this. There's a foster parent orientation meeting on July 14th at 6 p.m. at DSS. So we'd really not like to send any children out of county if they have to be in care. So the more folks that we can have that live here, the better.
Good.
So that's really what we want. We won't have to send them out anywhere at all. So it's a hard process and a lot of work, but we need a lot of people with big hearts.
And actually, thanks for bringing that up, because that's very important, that we continue to have quality people coming into McDowell County DSS to be foster parents, because there's a definite need, and it's beneficial and enjoyable. I mean, you've got to go through and meet certain guidelines and criteria and things like that, but I think it's very rewarding, don't you think?
It's
Ashley,
worth it
foster
in the
parent?
end.
Well, I think it's a wonderful thing. I support it 100%, as far as the act of, taking these children, these small kids, and bringing them into your home and showing them love and affection and what normal kids should really be seeing in every situation. It's great.
And I don't think Ashley would mind. He's adopted 2 children, right, by being a foster parent. And I've adopted 2, and almost the third one coming up. So I think it's great. It's a great program. But anyway, all right, let's move on to the next item. Thanks, Ashley, for reminding everybody about that.
Yes, sir.
Item B under old business. Go right ahead, sir.
Sure. Thought I would do sort of a laundry list of project updates. Some you've heard fairly recently, but just to get the word out on some. Fairly recently, I guess it was the June meeting, you awarded bids for the Universal Water Line. That should be approved fairly soon, contracts and everything. It takes more time than it should, but that project will be underway very soon. We appreciate the cooperation of the city to get that done, to serve that property. Talked last month about our Harmony Grove Road water project. That one was the one where the bids came in higher than anticipated by the engineer. So what we're, sharpening our pencils and done all that since then. Spoke to the U.S. Forest Service. Part of the project was to serve their facility. Told them we were in dire straits. They stepped up to the plate with $60,000, which covers the line through their facility. We appreciate their funding assistance. We're working with NCDOT and our engineer on revising the design to decrease the cost. And we're also talking with the state and Appalachian Regional Commission for additional grant funding. Part of the condition for additional funding would be, for the county to increase our contribution up to $300,000, which is almost an $85,000 increase of what we're doing. So I had the conversation with our finance officer earlier. Either we increase by about $85,000 or we don't get a water line out of it. So it's not a hard decision maybe to make, but it is a fairly significant amount of money, but based on the investment, I think it's worth it. Just what you've got in front of you is sort of hot off the presses. So staff recommendation would be for the county to do $300,000. One state department would do $100,000. Forest Service would do $60,000. ARC is committed to $300,000 right now, and we're asking for another $232,000 from them, which would be maybe unprecedented for them to do that much out of a project, but we're keeping our fingers crossed on it. But so what we're asking tonight, staff is asking that you okay the commitment up to $300,000 to show ARC that we're serious, that we want this project to happen, so the folks and the businesses out there can get municipal public water. So we'd ask for that tonight.
Okay, well, it's good business sense. Spend $83,000 to get, $300 already, but another $232 on top of that, possibly.
Hopefully.
So you're saying you feel 100% certain we can get that extra money there tonight?
I'm about 85% certain.
That's a pretty good percentage.
We are working on the cost reduction. That's going to take a little bit of time based on some of the design that the engineer has to do. But so my request for us to be able to go up to that amount, but hopefully not anywhere near it.
Okay.
Up to the 300.
Right.
I don't see anything negative with taking water to the interstate there. I just see positive coming out of it.
Well, we're building our base. We're growing our water system customer-wise, and as Commissioner Crawford said, good point, providing a public need. Any other comments or questions?
Well, we've got to keep a water line going into the ground someplace in this county all the time.
Very good point, Commissioner Hawkins, we do. That has been on every agenda we have. When we're long gone, they need to be talking about it every month.
That's right.
Yep, that's right.
Well, we need to always be working on every aspect of to improve the infrastructure of the county. And as far as my part, I make a move, we extend it to 300,000.
Okay, make a motion, have a second.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye, opposed, like sign. Now,
Related to that, I mentioned the Forest Service providing $60,000. They do have an agreement that they would ask us to approve to allow that to happen. Essentially, we're contracting with them to do the water line in exchange for $60,000. So it's a pretty good deal.
okay, what's the pleasure of the board to approve the document that's been requested?
Motion to approve agreement with Forest Service.
Okay, we have a second.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye, opposed, like sign. Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Wooten, let's go to the courthouse.
Yes, sir. Moving on, the memo has changed a little bit as far as the timing. We had talked about doing a walkthrough. with staff and the sheriff and others on some of the work that's happened. There's now going to be ribbon cutting this Friday for the elevator, which is in operation, and you've all been invited, and I hope you can all be there for that photo opportunity. Related to that, I've spoken by email with the sheriff, and he will be glad to do a tour of the holding cells, security corridors, et cetera. That's really going to help his operations. So that's this Friday, and would ask that if you can be there to make it. That's the current project. Looking forward, where we are now, the county has purchased the building next door for future office space. The architect has measured that space, mentioned that last month. He just has a drawing for that done. He's measuring spaces in the existing courthouse to make sure there's a fit there. We're also getting quotes from surveyors to do, maps essentially of this building, administration building. So we have good plans moving forward. We don't have as-builts for this building, so we need to have some of the measurements verified. So we're doing that now. And so that will sort of be lay the groundwork for some of the drawing that he will do. He's done some rough sketches that you've seen and approved, but once he has a better idea on the measurements, he can move forward with actual construction drawings. So I mentioned to a couple of you previously that we would like to have a work session within the next couple of months, once he has a chance to get some more work done, background work, so we can have some input into the process and really work out a plan where it's not, here it is, please approve. It's, you've had input the whole time. So
Okay,
that,
sounds good.
we'll keep
Moving
working
forward.
on that. Spoke to you all a week or so ago about the transportation planning. There's a transportation steering committee that has met. And the consultant that you have hired is doing great work. Recommended to the consultant that before they get too far into it, that the board meet with them and have some opportunity to give direction. So we had talked about having that at lunchtime on the 18th, and so we'll ask for here. So we'll ask at the end of the meeting that you adjourn to next Monday, so you can give some input on that process, which is very exciting. Moving on, we have the shooting range project. That's been pretty silent, I know, in this room for the last couple of months, and somewhat on the staff level as well. And part of that had to do with the person that you heard from back earlier in the year, Mr. Hamlet. He has left the NC Wildlife, is now in the private sector, and so he has turned over his files and everything to an interim staff person who will be taking the project and moving forward. And the anticipation is that he will be in the county in the next couple of weeks to look at some of the sites with his own eyes and maybe do some of the early evaluations and some of the possibilities.
Has he set a date yet on when he's coming?
I think it's the last week in July. We'll verify the date and make sure. 26th. Okay. So that's finally moving again after staff turnover. Well, I think Mr. Harmon and I had probably burned up their inbox and voicemail probably every other week. Either one of us was calling or emailing.
Good.
So
We like it to be every week.
I think it was I was doing one week and he was doing the other. So we were getting
Continue doing
tired of us.
The
But
squeaky wheel will get the
we're pretty squeaky,
action on this.
but we're trying. The last item I had for a project update, and unfortunately it's not a lot changed from last month. I mentioned last month the senior housing project, Joyce Strassel. She is the head of the Western North Carolina Housing Partnership, and she's met with a couple of us on some of the possible sites for senior apartments and senior housing. And she had a death in the family a couple of weeks ago, so we wanted to give her a little bit of space, but maybe it's been enough time for her to get back in the office. So in the next day or two, I'll try to get up with her and see if she can come back up and get the discussion going again, because we don't want a lot of moss to grow on that stone. But she's very excited about working with us, and not in just the we mentioned last month, not just in the subsidized housing, but some of the other areas that we want to look at, private apartments, duplexes, that sort of thing. So we'll keep you informed on all of these. We'll try to keep it on the agenda as much as possible so the public is informed too, because a lot of times we talk about what's going on, but we want to make sure that we bring it up here so the public knows what is happening too. So I think that's all I had on the agenda to talk about. We could recap everything for Mr. McPeters, but
Welcome.
any questions about any of those?
Yeah, I got a question or a comment on the building we purchased right out here.
Sure.
Back there. I noticed that on the bank and things behind it, it's really being cleaned up and grassed and all that. Did we do that or the city do that?
We did that.
Very good. Appreciate that. That was looking a little bit rough.
It did. Now that we own both of the buildings, it made sense to get all that cleaned up all at
Okay.
once, because it was a little tough when we did own the two-story building, but it does present a lot better with all that.
It
clear
presents
behind it.
a lot
Good.
better.
So we'll clean out the interior of the two-story building in the next couple of weeks too, just to make it look better.
Had we talked about doing anything with the parking area up top behind that building?
We will probably, once the courthouse project, because they're using a lot of that for staging, once that is wrapped up, and a lot of it may depend on where we go with the next phases and what's needed. But the recommendation would be to improve that and use it for parking, because right now it's maybe used informally. There's no lines or anything, but I know probably on court days it is used. But
Yeah, there's gonna have to be some asphalt put in there.
yes, sir.
Okay, comments, questions? No. None from Commissioner McPeters.
Good
Okay.
point, Mr. McPeter.
All right. Let's move to reports, communications.
Just a reminder of the ribbon cutting this Friday at 10:30. That will be upstairs at the elevator. And afterwards, the sheriff will do a walkthrough of the work elsewhere in the building that's being done. And then at the end of the meeting, we'll ask you to adjourn to next Monday at 11:30, again for the transportation meeting. And the other event we wanted to make sure you were aware of in the public is on Thursday, July 28th at 6:30. I believe you've been sent an invite for that, but we'll have our fourth legacy program at the Senior Center. And these are the interviews that Teresa and Waylon do with their senior citizens in the community that air on our channel. So it's a great program. I know a lot of you, several of you have been, but just a great event. You hear so many different stories, war stories of growing up in school, and just different things of folks that have contributed to this community over the years. But I would stress that as an important event coming up.
And maybe I'll be on it Wednesday.
And that's all I have.
Okay. This time we'll move to citizen comment. Do we have anyone present tonight that wishes to speak? If so, just come to the podium and state your name and your topic. All right. We'll start on this side of the room. Nobody wishes to speak. We'll go this side. Okay. At this time, let's go ahead and do I hear a motion that we adjourn this meeting to July the 18th for a transportation board meeting?
Motion to adjourn to the transportation meeting.
Commissioner Harville made a motion, to have a second.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. All right, motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.